folks across the state are singing along with her. Let it snow. Kyle Melinn, MIRS News, MIRSnews.com, is right here in our AT&T studio. Welcome, and nice to see you in a holiday sort of green shirt and a holiday tie.
Well, you know, for the Christmas tree that you have here, I thought this would be the most appropriate.
It is.
With the Irish Christmas tree. Did you decorate that yourself?
My wife, Christine Teneglia, invented the whole thing, and I came home one day, and there it was. Boom,
wow,
Irish
she did
Christmas tree.
Fantastic job.
Wasn't that nice? And so we put it down here, and as you can see, the couple of the ornaments we've added are from the governor.
Yeah, I saw the governor's ornament right there, the dog.
Yeah, the dog ears thing, and then but yeah, it's beautiful, and I thank her very much for that. It was a big surprise, and it's a treat to bring it out every single year. But the only question is, do you bring it out at Christmas or St. Patrick's Day?
You would bring it out both. Why not both?
That's what we've been doing.
Yeah, or you could just keep it up until March 18th.
3 months till St. Patrick's Day, by the way, as of yesterday. You interviewed the governor yesterday.
Yeah.
And the governor cracked me up a little bit because he's now saying, well, right to work isn't that much of an economic gardening thing. And isn't that what the whole thing was about?
Well, it was about bringing jobs. And he said that right to work is more about manufacturing jobs and bringing the big manufacturers in, like Toyota and those Japanese automakers who just don't like dealing with unions. And I think that's what it's more about. You know, the economic gardening thing is more about small business. But it is kind of interesting, though, for the guy who, you know, really accentuated the economic gardening phrase here in Michigan to say, well, it really didn't have anything to do with right to work. The most controversial thing I'll ever do here in office.
And a week later, he's telling us it's not.
Yeah.
It's rich. Now, the other big story that I'm most interested in is this this gun legislation that passed 12 hours or so before, in the last day of lame duck. In fact, the last night, the last morning, if you want to call it that. And now it's at the governor's office. And now I read that you've uncovered, or you got the governor to say, it's not exactly how I want it.
Right.
Is that what he's saying?
Yeah, well, because he wanted through the process to have an opt-out for public entities. If a public school or a public, you know, a township hall or whatever didn't want guns in their facility, they could post and say, we don't allow concealed weapons in this property. But apparently the gun advocates say that to do that would have run it afoul with other laws, and there would have been some problems that would have thrown the whole bill into court. So they said, you know what, we can't do it. The governor doesn't like that, and particularly since we had those, we had that shooting in Connecticut, it kind of puts a point on it that, you know, folks just don't like the idea of guns in a classroom with kids. You know, no matter if it's concealed or it's locked or whatever, the two just don't go together in most people's mind. And so he's saying, since we can't exempt them, I've got a problem with the bills. Now, he didn't say he was going to veto them, but to say he had a problem with them kind of leads you down that road.
That's what it feels like.
That's what it feels like, yeah.
Now he's going to split the difference and send it back. I can't believe anything else would happen other than that, because he gets to have his cake and eat it too.
Well, you would think so. You could say, you know, let's work on this loophole that you can allow gun, because right now, if you open carry and you're licensed to do so, you can open carry into a school. I mean, that's a little mixed up, right? You can't carry concealed, but you can carry open. And so that was what this bill was supposed to do. It was supposed to switch it around and say you can't open carry, but you can carry concealed.
What would you open carry? What does that mean?
Well, that means that you just got it out in the open, and everyone can see that you got a pistol right there. Here it is.
So it's like on your hip or whatever?
Oh, yeah,
sure. As opposed to in, you know...
Yeah, as opposed to, you know,
behind or something?
Yeah, I don't know where they carry these things.
And we're going to put a suit coat
or something?
Yeah, we're going to put a sign on the school that's, you know, I mean...
Yeah, don't bring your guns in here.
Kind of folly, too, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
No smoking, no guns, no cell phones.
Well, the idea, I guess, is that if you keep it concealed, nobody knows that you have it. And then if we have an emergency situation and you're properly licensed to carry it, you can bring it out and maybe help the situation from, you know, getting more out of control and maybe stop the shooter. I guess that's the idea. But then the argument to that is what happens if you're an administrator or a teacher? Obviously, you would be that, and you're trying to break up a fight, and then all of a sudden, there it is, and some ticked-off kid who's trying to settle a score with that other kid pulls it out. Now you got yourself a real situation, and, you know, did the gun help in that matter? No, not really. And how many times do we really have shooters coming in, guns ablazing, into a school?
Yeah, too often, but not often to the point where...
Yeah, I mean, right. I mean, we've got tens of thousands of schools in this country, and you know, we hear about it when it happens because it's awful, but you know, it's not like it happens every day.
So politically speaking, because you've seen it all, there's no way the governor's going to sign this bill.
I think it's really hard. I mean, you can always say that there's a way because, you know, he can't get into his mind 100%, but certainly not sounding like he's going to sign this thing.
And he doesn't, just sends it back for retooling.
Right. I mean, and you could say, you know, let's work on this a little more. I mean, I want the loophole, but, you know, if it's true that we can't have a public opt-out through just one piece of legislation, well, then let's have two. I mean, let's change all the laws that are needed to be changed in order for us to have a true public opt-out.
Senator Whitmer was feisty yesterday, huh?
She always seems to be a little feisty. You know, she actually got to hold the gavel on the Electoral College.
Oh.
And so that was interesting. All 16 of our votes obviously went to Barack Obama because of the election. But, you know, it was interesting that as this was going on, we also brought out some news that there's a state representative, Pete Lund, who would like to change how the Electoral College is figured. And it would be advantageous to Republicans. You know, Republicans haven't won an Electoral College vote in the state since George H.W. Bush. And if you were to split up the Electoral College by congressional districts, they could get a couple votes. She didn't like that, and so she had to make sure her opinion was stated on such. And she had a press conference afterwards, so she had the venue.
We'll hear a little bit more about that as soon as we get back. Kyle Melinn, MIRS News, Michael Patrick Shiels.